I really think it's Tony Pollard. He is who I'm kind of zeroing in on. I went back and looked at the matchup last year, which is very different from a Cowboys perspective to what you'll see. Obviously, it was Week 15. You didn't have hardly any of your starters on the offensive line. You didn't have Dak Prescott. It was Andy Dalton. But you had Tony Pollard starting in that game for Ezekiel Elliott. They had a really, really good outing for the Cowboys in that one with 2 rushing touchdowns, one of a 40-yarder, and he also had 6 catches for 63 yards. I think not only in the passing game could Tony Pollard play a huge factor, but I also think, running the ball, I really think Tony Pollard needs to be your league dog through at least the first 3 quarters for my liking. I'd like to see him kind of be the focus in the backfield for the Cowboys. I just think he gives you that home run threat, run to the edge, and you use Ezekiel Elliott as your physical bruiser at the end of the game in short yardage, and that's how I'd like to see that 1-2 combination.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on the Pollard stuff. I think, especially now that you're in the playoffs, you're not trying to kind of stroke egos and make people feel good and keep people healthy and all these different things. It's 100% purely about winning the game that you're playing, and so by any means necessary. And I think Pollard is the guy that should be getting majority of the touches from the running back standpoint, and that's not to be overly critical of Zeke. It's just where this team's at right now, and the things that Pollard can do for you, Zeke just can't provide for you right now. So I think you're 100% right there. I would say I was going to have Pollard in my X Factor conversation offensively. I like to go with Cedric Wilson, though.
Okay.
Because I think Cedric Wilson and KD Drummond sort of hinted at this with us last night. There is the element of the trick play.
True.
That Cedric Wilson provides you with his ability to throw the ball. And so you see these like reverse passes and stuff like that where Cedric Wilson is the guy who's throwing the ball because of the quarterback skill set that he has from his pass. So to me, Cedric Wilson could be that guy, and he's going to be basically a full-time guy on the field. So he's going, and if you're a defense, you just don't have the luxury to really be able to key in on him, because you have to be worried much more about what Amari Cooper can do to you, what CeeDee Lamb can do to you. And even though he's just a tight end, not necessarily a big play guy, but the third down safety blanket that Dalton Schultz is. And then you get to Pollard and Zeke and what those guys can do. So Cedric Wilson is kind of in this perfect role where, yeah, everybody knows he's good. I don't think the Niners look at him and don't respect him or anything like that, but they're not going to be able to put their best guy on him. They're not going to be able to double him, anything like that. You clearly see Dak's got confidence in him. And so I think Cedric Wilson could be that guy where Dak's feeding him a little bit, and then at some point in the 4 quarters of the game, Kellen Moore's going to bust out something a little bit wild, and you got to think that Cedric Wilson is going to be directly involved in whatever that wild trickeration is sort of going to be. So I like the idea of Cedric Wilson being my offensive X factor. I like yours at Tony Pollard. I think defensively, there's 2 guys that keep just popping in my brain. One of them more obvious than the other. I think Jayron Kearse could just be a huge factor in this game.
I'm with you.
What he's able to do from a Kittle standpoint, I think is going to be massive for this team. I think he's probably your best guy in terms of matching up with Kittle. And so he's going to be huge.
He can run with Kittle. That's my only concern.
Yeah, I mean, I think as good as anybody else can, and he's long. He's physical. He is still pretty big, but then he can also move. Now, I don't know how much the hamstring is going to be hampering him, but I do feel like Jayron Kearse is a big kind of X factor there. Not only for what he can do versus Kittle, but also what he can do just as a tackling machine and a sure tackler. And I think over any offense you've played this year, you desperately need all hands on deck in terms of sure tackling.
100%.
What Debo,
especially in this game.
Yes,
I mean,
this game is huge for that.
More important than any other that you will probably play and any opponent that you will probably see, even for the remainder of the postseason.
So Jayron Kearse sticks out to me as a defensive X factor, but I'm also going to go back to my guy who is my guy from last year. Is my favorite Dallas Cowboy last year.
Dono?
My guy, Donovan Wilson. And he's been banged up this year and all these different things. Unfortunately, the Cowboys haven't really needed him.
I like that.
But I think this could be a big-time Donovan Wilson game. I think you're going to be in a lot of big nickel type of packages defensively. And so with a healthy Donovan Wilson, he's a guy that can also be a sure tackler, a physical guy. What do we talk about with the Niners? What is Bobby Belt and everybody's talking about? Physicality. Well, Donovan Wilson, though he is a little bit smaller in stature, he's a physical mofo.
He is.
And he's ready to
throw his body around.
He will throw his body around. He's scared of nobody. And he's going to be the type of guy that can come in the run game and fill some alleys. He can blitz and maybe make a big play. But he's a sure tackling kind of guy who I think will see the field quite a bit this weekend. And he's the kind of dude that could just kind of, like when I think of X Factor, I'm not thinking about Dak Prescott. You know what I mean? Like I'm not thinking about
I feel like it's kind
the
of a gimme
obvious Randy
if you
Gregory
throw your
or
quarterback
Parsons.
out there.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think a little bit outside the box. Not that Jayron Kearse is overly outside the box, but to an extent. But Donovan Wilson, I think, certainly is. I don't think many people are really considering him much at all in this game.
And his playing time is also unpredictable.
Gosh dang it, that just freaking turned me on. Was that for Donovan Wilson? Was that Donovan Wilson activating?
That's our activation sound, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I love
activating him,
I
baby.
think Donovan Wilson being activated, because one thing that they do, obviously, they run the ball and they do everything so well. And
I'd like to see more of him than DeMonte Casey. I'll tell you that, because Casey, his tackling was poor last week.
Yeah. And in the run game, you're obviously going to need that. You're going to need it in terms of the yak monsters that is George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. And it's not only what those players have in their own bodies as yak ability, but it's also just what Kyle Shanahan brings to the table schematically, where he's setting guys up for yak opportunities and yak success. And so you're going to need your tacklers, and they're going to test your corners a ton in terms of, and just your secondary as a whole when it comes to tackling. They're going to get the ball to the edge. Hey, can your corner step up here and make a tackle? Can your safety who's floating around, can he come down here and make a tackle? I think Donovan Wilson's the kind of guy that I trust in those situations.
And, you know, I think to your point, the linebackers as well, and you and I were actually having a conversation about this pre-show and how nervous we are about Leighton Vander Esch. Leighton Vander Esch is going to have to figure this out, man. And, you know, whether we like it or not, Leighton Vander Esch might be a reason why you win or lose this football game. Like, this dude has to be able to just at least have gap assignment and not just get lost in all of the trash that Kyle Shanahan's going to make him sort through to get to the ball carrier. Because we've seen him completely just head on a swivel, has no idea where the football is at times with all this motion and movement. Leighton Vander Esch is going to have to be on his P's and Q's with this one. Yeah,
I mean, you go back to, I believe it was rookie year Vander Esch, who had a great year, and then they get to the playoffs. They see Sean McSex in that offense with all the window dressing and eye candy, pre-snap motion and such. And Vander Esch and at the time Jalen Smith, I mean, they could not get it figured out. And this is similar, and I think it's even more like on steroids with what you're getting from Kyle Shanahan and his blocking schemes, and you just don't know who's going where. You don't know if it's going to be a run or a pass until the last possible second. I think this is a doomsday nightmare scenario for Leighton Vander Esch.